So you're having a bad moment or dealing with a hard situation at work. Maybe you're struggling with confidence and someone says, think positive. It's standard advice, right? And it sounds helpful, but often it's just not. In this episode, we're going to be exploring why think positive is often bad advice and why I think powerful is a far more useful mindset in those difficult moments. We're going to cover why that kind of fake positivity can sometimes make low confidence worse, what powerful thinking actually sounds like, and I'm going to give you a load of examples from everyday workplace scenarios. Welcome to the Confident at Work podcast. I'm your host, executive confidence coach, Anna Manning. So let's get into it. When you're in a bad spot at work or something hard is happening, somebody might just say, oh, think positive. But I don't think you actually need to be positive in order to be effective. You don't need fake positivity. You need power. Think positive is trying to feel better. I just put a good spin on it. I just try and push down all the uncomfortable emotions that I'm experiencing. Think powerful is completely different. Powerful means being able to act while you are in a hard spot, while you're feeling whatever you're feeling. It allows you to be focused on solutions and what's in your control while acknowledging the reality of the situation, which may be bad, which may be hard. So I want to share 3 main reasons that I've come up with why think positive isn't actually that helpful. And the first is that think positive suppresses emotion. So you don't actually process what's just happened or acknowledge the emotional component of the situation. You just attempt to kind of blank it out or push it down or override it instead. So you're not acknowledging, oh, this is actually really hard or that sucked. Instead, you're like, never mind. Think positive. It's this weird suppressing or overriding, which ultimately I don't think helps. Number 2 is that think positive creates internal conflict. Because part of you is saying, this is bad, this is not a good situation, or this is hard, or that hurt. And the other part of you is like, you should feel fine, you should think positive. And that tension, that internal conflict that's been created, stops you from trusting yourself and drains your confidence. The third reason is that I think positive just often isn't believable or even isn't appropriate. So there are some situations where it's even not that appropriate to think positive. Let's say you're all facing redundancy and someone's like, think positive. Is that really appropriate right now to say that to somebody? Think positive when you're facing redundancy. Perhaps not. It's not really acknowledging the potential gravity of the situation for people. And it might be the same if you're dealing with a team and you are really in a hard spot. Imagine if you say to them, well, let's think positive. It's probably not going to land. And then people might just feel worse, or you might feel worse for not really believing it, even though it sneakily actually wasn't that believable in the first place. And the key here, I think, is that this think positive, which is basically fake positivity, doesn't actually increase your confidence or your ability to act well in a hard situation. Thinking powerfully does. It actually does increase your confidence and your ability to act and act well even in a hard situation. So I want to share what thinking powerfully actually sounds like. So it's not denial of what's happening or hype or kind of plastering a sticking plaster and pretending everything's fine. It's not forced positivity. It's grounded in reality while staying connected to your agency, your responsibility, and your ability to respond even in a hard situation. So it means acknowledging the hard and orientating, whatever that is, towards what's actually within your control. Because many hard situations, there will be stuff which is right outside of your control or your team's control, for instance. But when you're thinking powerfully, you'll notice that there will be things which are in your control, steps which you can take, stuff which you could do in response. Will it be perfect? Maybe not, but you have agency. So when you're oriented towards what's actually within your control, you're going to be focused on solutions rather than the drama of the situation. And it means that you can actually kind of remain open enough to think about what could be possible. So it might sound like, this is hard, we're affected by this, and I can still choose how I respond. So let's say you are managing a team or leading a team. That might sound like, I get that this is hard. We are affected by this, and we can still choose how we respond here. Now, how much better do you think that's going to land than think positive? When we make it external, you can see how much better that's going to land. But I know from my work with clients that it's also going to land better when you approach it that way within you. Acknowledge this is hard. Acknowledge it's having an effect on me, and I can still choose how I respond. I still have some agency here. What is it if I choose to notice? Where do I have influence? Where do I have a choice? What capacity do I have to respond? It's so much easier to actually use it and to actually do it, to move yourself forward. So I've got 10. I may have gone over the top here. I hope I haven't, but I've got 10 everyday workplace examples where I'm contrasting for you. Think positive and think powerful. I really wanted you to hear what these examples sound like. Just let them wash over you. And in that way, really build up your understanding and your experience of how this could work for you, what this might sound like for you, because this is going to be a little bit different for everybody. And these are just my examples. So here's the first one. After receiving critical feedback, positive says, well, I get loads of good feedback. I should just focus on that. Powerful says, that stung. And if I keep going, I bet I can improve. Notice the difference? Here's the next example. Before a big presentation or a meeting, positive says, no one will even remember what happened tomorrow. Powerful says, I promise you, no matter what happens, I will have your back, and I'm going to be proud of you no matter what. Here's the next example. When something in a project goes wrong, positive says, it'll turn out all right in the end. Powerful says, this is hard, and I've handled some really hard things before. I can do this. During a heavy workload, or let's say you're having a heavy, busy week, positive says, it'll be easier when things calm down. Powerful says, I have a lot on my plate this week, and I can only do one thing at a time. What is the next best thing I can focus on? Here's another example after being passed over for a promotion. Positive says, well, you'll get the next one. Powerful says, I missed out on something that I really hoped for and I worked hard for. That's tough. And I know I'll use the feedback to get stronger for next time. The next example, when starting a new role or joining a new team, positive might say, everything's going to be great. I just need to stay confident. Powerful might say, this might feel uncomfortable for me at first. I won't know everything yet. That's normal. I can ask questions. I will find my footing over time. Here's the next example. Let's say there's some workplace conflict. Positive says, just stay positive. It's probably going to be fine. And I shouldn't let this is uncomfortable because it matters. I can't control how they act, but I can choose how I want to approach this. Here's the next example. Let's say you're facing some uncertainty, or maybe there's some organizational change. Positive might just say, change is exciting. Everything happens for a reason. Powerful says, this feels a little unsettling right now. I may not have all the answers yet. I can stay adaptable. I will look for opportunities as they emerge. Okay, here's the last two. After making a mistake or an error, positive says, it's fine, don't think about it. Every success is built on failure. You can hear there's a lot of cliches in the positive, isn't there? Powerful says, I feel really uncomfortable, and that makes sense. I do like to get things right. And I know I can learn from this. I will repair anything that needs to be repaired, and then I'll move forward. Last one. And think about this as you managing or leading other people. So let's say your team is having a setback. Everybody knows it. Everybody's feeling it. Positive says, come on, everyone, stay positive. Let's not focus on the negatives. Powerful says, this setback is disappointing and we are still making progress. Yeah, it's hard right now. All we need to focus on is the next achievable step. And I hope you heard in those examples that you actually don't need to feel completely positive or confident or certain or even kind of optimistic about how this thing's going to turn out to respond powerfully. I don't think you do. I think you only need enough awareness. Some people would call that emotional intelligence, but enough awareness to acknowledge the reality of the situation, notice how it's affecting you and maybe others, and choose your next available option, your next available move. I think many people think that it will be easier to deal with a hard situation if they're thinking positive. And I don't want to say that thinking positive is always a bad idea. I don't believe that. However, I think when things are hard, thinking positive can be more harmful than helpful. I think it can weaken your ability to respond powerfully. But thinking powerfully is always going to strengthen your ability to act, to respond, and to stay with it even when it's hard. And think powerful also works better for confidence, both in the short term, like in the moment, and in the long term, so over time. Confidence does not come from pretending that everything's fine and it's all rainbows and daisies and we're all positive. Actual real confidence comes from the opposite of pretending and faking. It comes from trusting yourself, having that self-trust even when things are tough or challenging or hard. And that self-trust is built in part by your ability to think powerfully when things are tough, when something isn't ideal. Because you don't need confidence when everything's fine, right? And everything's going really well. You don't think about it. It's just not required. When it's really required is when the shit hits the fan. In big ways and small ways, your self-trust and your self-belief, that's when you need them. That is where they're going to be the steady thing inside you that allows you to hold, to acknowledge, stay with the situation, and to go through the hard. And the more you think powerfully, the more self-trust you're going to build, because you're seeing that in those hard situations, you can still respond. And you know what? Other people are going to see that too. So every time, actually, you're in a less than ideal situation, you have the opportunity to build more self-trust and more belief, which is really what confidence is. So you might not be able to go as far as this today. This might be too far for you. But imagine, work is throwing all these challenging situations at you, all these hard moments, all these tricky things. It is giving you the platform to build all the trust and the belief in yourself that you need in order for your confidence to grow. It is like the gym where you're going to lift those weights and strengthen those muscles, strengthen that self-trust and that belief. And what would that be like? So I'm going to recap. You do not need to be positive in order to be effective. You need to be powerful enough to just stay with the reality and respond well. So I think when things are hard, when there's a tough moment, when your confidence might wobble, don't force positivity. Build power. And if you would like to come and work with me in order to build power, build self-trust, build self-belief, build your professional confidence, Head to the link in the show notes, book a call, and come and speak to me about private coaching or joining the Confident at Work program. Both might be great potential options for you. I'm happy to walk you through it, hear what your challenges are, hear what you're facing and what your goals are, where you really want to get to. And if I think I can help you, I'll tell you all about how we could work together. All right? I will see you in next week's episode. Bye.
Confident, confident, confident. I can be confident, 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 confident. I can be confident at work.